Okay, I'm going to go over one of these, perhaps not technically important ideas, but something that really used to bother me when I was a 1500 player. And I used to play this variation, and I used to have fun playing these lines against the Sicilian. And at the time, well, actually, it was the early mid 70s, late 70s. Grandmaster Walter Browne was very good with the Sicilian, and so I followed some of the lines that he played. I used to have fun playing these lines and trying to get the same kinds of attacks. And so we're going to go down what was at the time considered a mainstream line, which is still a lot of fun to play. I play knight f3, you play d6, and d4 takes, knight takes, and black plays knight f6, hits the pawn, and white guards, knight c3. Okay? And now I play what's called the Najdorf. Now this is named after the famous South American grandmaster Miguel Najdorf, who has been in the top few players in the world at times during his heyday. And he, of course, gave some popularity, lended some popularity to this line. And I used to play this. I mean, after all, Grandmaster Walter Browne plays it. It's got to be good for me. And so I used to play this bishop g5 line. And black plays the main line here, e6, and I play f4. Notice how, if you're looking at the last game, there's some similarities, because you see that black has the knight in the game that Taimanov was playing in 1954, and this game, which was played in the 70s, I have this same similar setup. Even though this is the bishop g5 line against the Najdorf was very, very much in vogue in those days. And f4, and black plays bishop e7.
I'm sorry, Arthur.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's the point of f4?
Okay. Well, one point in f4 is that you have a couple of thrusts that you may be interested in. One of them is, and perhaps not so often, you can play e5. This especially happens like in the Polygaevsky line, where black plays for an early b5 and white plays e5, takes. Perhaps you've seen that variation. And so if black doesn't watch the center, you can go for some of those ultra aggressive lines. Or you may be playing for f5 at some point to try, for example, to crack open this diagonal. Fischer, who made the Auburn Sicilian so popular, put pressure on this diagonal. It wasn't that there weren't plenty of strong players playing bishop c4 even before Fischer. It's just that he made this popular. And by the way, Auburn was also a famous player that helped popularize it. But the idea is to play for f5 or e5 early to put the question to black: are you going to stop me from playing the Polygaevsky variation, this ultra aggressive line? Or are you going to stop me from playing the f5 line at some point? The suggestion was that white was asking black some questions at a very early point, given that black is playing this, some players would argue, somewhat passively. Okay? So black plays bishop e7. And Walter Browne made this line popular. He had some very, very nice games against some very strong grandmasters. As you know, he in all said and done, he won the U.S. championship 6 times, and so they called him Mr. 6 times. And so anyway, I played this line because I saw him playing it, and the main line used to be knight at b to d7, okay, or queen c7 first. You castle, they play queen c7, and now you can see that black doesn't want to play knight c6 and allow for this exchange in e5, which can be it's okay, but it is a little bit positionally awkward. But there are many ways that black can still play this. play that line. And by playing knight d7, the knight might instead choose a different route. From c6, it couldn't put additional pressure on e4, but from d7, some of the lines have black playing knight to c5 and b5, bishop b7, putting extra pressure on this diagonal. And so there's certainly a lot to be said for this line. One thing you have to be careful of, though, is you are shedding off this bishop, and so you have to watch for sacrifices like on e6 or white putting early pressure on these light squares. And so my opponent, let me see, you see, last move was queen c7, right?
Yeah.
And I used to play this line here because Walter Browne did. Walter Browne plays it, you know, must be good enough for me. And one of the ideas is you're putting early pressure on g7. You expect it in this line where black has played more conservatively on the queen side. He's not going to actively castle his king on the queen side, or at least it's going to be more difficult to do so. So he's probably going to castle on the king side. So Walter's putting pressure on g7. And for example, let me see, we can back up in this software, right? Easily? If you arrow back? Okay. Yes, you can. Okay. So black plays castles. If black played castle, this turns out this would be a mistake. Anybody see why? Walter Browne recognized, well, if black carries on with the normal castling, this might not be that easy to play.
Bishop h6.
Yeah, bishop h6. So you can tell that black's going to have to worry about this. Now, bishop h6 isn't winning or anything. I mean, black has like knight e8, for example, but it's not that easy, or becomes more difficult. It becomes easier for white to develop an attack if black castles over there. And so I had this opponent that used to play this against me, and he did it more than once, and it used to bother me. He'd play h6 and say, okay, well, okay, now obviously this has to be good because Walter Browne played it, okay? And so it's good enough for me. I'm 1500 player, you know, obviously this is going to be good enough for me. But I didn't know really exactly what to do with the bishop, okay? I said, well, I really don't want to take with the knight and then give him a more comfortable position, or bring his bishop to a more active position where it might put pressure through that knight on c3, the knight on d4, and guard the g7 pawn at the same time. I'm not sure I want to do that. And so I decided I don't want to give him my bishop so easily. I'm going to try to play it to h4. There must be some reason why Walter didn't mind this. And then my opponent would play this. And he did it to me a couple of times. I was like, gosh, what is going wrong here? You know, I am right smack dab in the middle of Walter Browne's favorite line. There is no way that this could be okay. And it used to bother me because then I'd have to move my queen, and then he'd stab my bishop off. He'd trade the piece, and all I get to do is trade the bishop, and then he could put the knight back. And I wasn't all that happy with my queen on h4. I was like, what is going on here? There's got to be something wrong. And so one night, okay, true story, I am just thinking about it. I've already gone to sleep. It's really bothering me. This guy could just play, every time he'd play h6, and then, or this couple of times he'd play h6, and then he'd play knight h5, and I just have to trade the bishops, and so much for that. And Walter, have you ever seen this? Obviously, there's something wrong, okay? And then it hit me. And it hit me at nighttime. And I'll never forget it because it was really bothering me, and I was thinking about it in my sleep, and I had this position in my head. And then I realized what was going on. I realized that there's a relationship here. I realized that if this pawn wasn't here, I could play queen check and pick up the knight, right?
Knight takes e6.
And this pawn is also guarding e6, okay? So what might I be able to put together here? What could I do here? Okay? And I found it. Knight takes e6. And I found it at nighttime. I was so happy with myself. Oh my gosh. You know, it was like pitch black in the middle of the night kind of thing. I'll never forget it. And I said, I can't wait to play him again. And I got my chance. I was able to play him again, and of course I played knight c6.
It's winning, right?
Yes,
It's winning.
but I want you guys to take a look at it. Be a little more critical than just the surface ideas. One of the things we have to do with tactics, of course, is we have to follow through, right? We have to make sure that just because maybe even if we have that brilliancy first move look, doesn't mean we know what goes on after that. If we follow it through, we might say, you know what? I just found the brilliancy prize first move that leads to a dead loss, and I'm going to be very, very sorry if I play what looks like a great move.
There's a check that saves you. So after knight takes e6.
Yeah, knight takes
and then
e6.
You have to look at this first. Black's knight takes the queen.
Ah, knight takes queen.
Right, but that's not with check.
Okay, it's not with check.
And then
queen.
knight takes c7.
C7 with check, exactly.
That's the tempo.
Okay,
I like that. I just
And
think
then-
that's gotta work.
and then the king's got to move. Well, you got to follow through, right?
Well, then
Let's follow
knight
through.
takes- well, let's see,
Where's the king going to go?
Oh, wait, it's going to attack. It's going to go.
It's going to threaten the knight.
On
Right.
e8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now where are we? Okay, you got my queen. I got his queen.
Okay, so
wait, where's the king at? At D?
Well, king. Well, that's why. Now we got to be careful where everything is, right?
I'm seeing this
Okay,
other
the knight went to here,
Right,
right?
right,
Okay, this knight is now here.
right,
So the white queen's gone. The black knight's here. It's not here anymore.
right.
Okay, our knight takes this
Right.
queen check. This pawn is now gone, right? Which means these squares are available, for example. Keep that in mind.
King goes to D8.
King is going to go to d8, hit that
No,
knight.
Bishop takes.
Bishop takes.
E7 with
Bishop
check.
takes bishop check. Okay, with check.
Yeah.
king takes.
Okay, so king takes what? Well, if you don't want him to take our rook, how about we take the knight?
Yeah,
Yeah, but
then
you're still winning a piece.
yeah, you're going to take the knight back.
You're winning a piece.
Follow it through. Follow it through. Okay, you can do it. Okay, follow it through.
H take knight g3.
Okay, we could take that.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, where is this bishop right now in your mind?
Well, we took the bishop.
We took
Bishop's on e7, isn't
right,
it?
bishop's on E7.
Where's the king in your mind?
D8. D8.
No, the queen. Oh,
What?
It took the knight,
Oh,
so it's on c7.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so we got a white bishop here.
Right.
The king's here.
Right.
This pawn's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, his knight is here.
Oh, he's still got a knight there.
So
Just attacking our
so we so what Alex is suggesting is we take this way. We could take this way, even open the file, right? And then he would do what? He would probably try to protect this pawn. Does he have a way to protect this pawn? The bishop's threatening the pawn.
Oh, I see.
Is this knight still here?
No.
No, that knight's
That knight's
was
gone.
taken, right?
It's off the-
It was
it's off the
taken.
board, off the board.
So our bishop's threatening this pawn. The rook's on that pawn.
Oh, the rook.
Is there any way that he can stop it? No. And in fact, we could have taken that pawn to begin with, couldn't we?
yeah, that's right.
Okay? There's taking the pawn check to begin with. And then taking back. And saying at the very end, what's the material now?
You have a piece.
Aha! So no, we don't, hey, these are wonderful tactics. I made the king run around. I traded pieces.
Yeah, no, it's-
And oh, by the way, I'm a piece down. Okay?
Yeah.
I better make sure that I'm ahead in material.
I know.
Can we add this up as we go? Let's see. Okay? So knight, we got a pawn, right?
Okay.
He gets a queen.
Right.
We get a queen. So far we're a pawn
Down.
to the good, right?
Wait, oh, wait,
Right?
We're white, right?
We're white, yeah. Unless you'd like to be black, we could go back and forth and kind of flip our personality back. Okay, so we
We're
take.
up a pawn.
I was white. I took to take the queen check. King goes here.
Right.
We're up a pawn.
Right. Then bishop.
Now we take the bishop check.
So,
So now we're a bishop and pawn ahead.
bishop pawn.
He takes the knight.
So we're still up.
Now we're only up a pawn again.
But it's our turn.
And now Alex's move was to take the knight. So now what's the material?
Up a knight.
A full piece.
A knight and a pawn, right? Now we're a knight and a pawn ahead. Ooh. Now that sounds pretty good.
That's winning.
Okay, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Okay, that sounds pretty good. Also, our bishop is threatening this pawn, and it doesn't look like he's going to be defending it.
Evaluation's exactly like
And-
the pawns.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But we could have also taken the pawn check first and picked up a second pawn before he even took the knight, right?
Which pawn? How?
Because once this is out of the way, the rook is hitting this pawn, and the bishop that we took there is hitting this pawn.
Oh.
Okay. And also we could have played knight to d5 check too. We could have started with that, and then maybe, who knows, if I before taking his knight, if I play knight d5 check, where's that king going? Where's it going? Well, guess what? It can't go back here because we have a bishop there, right?
Right, bishop's here.
Okay. We played knight d5 check. He can go back to b8. Okay, which after bishop takes pawn check, that's not looking like fun for him. Now he's going to a7. Okay, but who knows? Maybe he gets to a slightly safer square on a7 than b8. Or he plays to c6, which looks kind of iffy. Okay, so we have lots of options. But you can see all this seems to be leading to me winning, doesn't it? Okay, but what made this possible? One of the things that players fail to do when they're looking at tactics is resetting the position up, asking them, what is it about this position that even allows me to find a tactic here? What is it that's so bad for black's position? Well, the black's last move was to move his knight here, right?
Right, it's
Which means that knight is
undefended piece.
undefended at this moment, right? So, and we looked at this pawn and we see if this pawn is blocking a diagonal that I could play check and grab the knight with. If I could play check and grab the knight, I'd be guarding my bishop, right? So even if I played knight takes pawn takes knight, queen check, the king moves, let's say to d8, then I could still take the knight and guard this. Or I could take the bishop check. I'm not sure I want to do that because this king looks a little bit more comfortable at e7 than it does on d8.
Visualizing that the S7
And then take the
pawn is-
knight.
So that diagonal is open, that the, what is it, the H5, E8 diagonal gets open because the F7 pawn goes that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I'd probably play check and take this,
Right.
hold the bishop, and then make sure that I leave his king in a bad spot. I kind of like these pieces being here and the king kind of trying to dance around behind the pieces, and then he has to solve the issue of not only finding a spot for his king, but which pieces do I try to get out of the way first to try to get my king to a safe square,
Well,
you
you
know?
didn't have time to unravel it. In the Najdorf, you're cramped at the beginning of the Najdorf. You're cramped.
Yeah, right.
And so he's cramped.
But anyway, I just thought you guys might enjoy that. Okay, all right, cool. Thank you. All right.
That one,
And thank you, Mr. Walter Browne.